Hi, everyone. Welcome to the B'nai B'rith International Unto Every Person There Is a Name virtual commemoration. Here's CEO Dan Mariashin.
Welcome to the Unto Every Person There Is a Name commemoration ceremony, our annual observance of Yom HaShoah with Yad Vashem, the World Holocaust Remembrance Center. We welcome the global community and our B'nai B'rith family to the 2021 observance of the Unto Every Person There Is a Name ceremony on Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day. We are continuing this program virtually, as we did last year. B'nai B'rith International has proudly served as the North American sponsor of this program on behalf of Yad Vashem since 1989. This year, the central theme, Until the Very Last Jew, focuses on 1941 and the 80 years since the onset of mass annihilation. In June 1941, the Nazis launched a surprise attack on the USSR named Operation Barbarossa, sending 4 million troops into Soviet territory. This was a turning point in the fate of the Jews, as it carried out a broad official policy of mass murder. After they murdered men in the first weeks of the invasion, the killing expanded into July and August to include women and children. The victims were forced to dig the killing pits themselves, or shot at the edges of ravines or anti-tank trenches. In Ponar, a forest near Vilnius, Lithuania, more than 70,000 people, most of them Jews, were murdered. 33,771 Jews from Kiev were murdered at Babi Yar in that city on September 29th and 30th, 1941, Yom Kippur Eve. In their memory, and all of the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust, we gather to remember. I'm honored today to be joined by several distinguished leaders representing communities and campuses across the United States, Canada, Israel, Europe, and Latin America. They include Sheila Mostyn, Chair, B'nai B'rith Center for Jewish Identity, Toronto, Canada. James Fleischer, Executive Director, Alpha Epsilon Pi Fraternity, Indianapolis, Indiana. Simone Hoffman, Member, International Council of B'nai B'rith, Frankfurt, Germany. Roberto Newell, B'nai B'rith International Senior Vice President, Buenos Aires, Argentina. Serge Dehaan, President, B'nai B'rith Europe, Paris, France. Trey Meehan, Chair, B'nai B'rith Connect DC, Washington, DC. Ira Bartfield, Chair, B'nai B'rith Center for Community Action, Arlington, Virginia. Alan Schneider, Director, B'nai B'rith World Center, and member of the International Unto Project Committee, Jerusalem, Israel. And Charles Kaufman, President, B'nai B'rith International, Austin, Texas. We'll begin our program with a video presentation from Yad Vashem, Collecting the Names, followed by Tammy Ben-Chaim, Minister for Public Diplomacy at the Embassy of Israel in Washington, D.C.
We have embarked on a vital mission, using new, innovative approaches to uncover the names of those who have no one to remember them.
People have submitted information in over 20 languages, mostly handwritten. We had to develop sophisticated search and retrieval tools to enable our experts to examine the data, to look for nicknames and related names, and to cross-reference the information.
We will not rest until our mission is complete.
It is often said that Israel has two memorial days, Yom HaZikaron, to remind us of the cost of having a Jewish state, and Yom HaShoah, to remind us of the cost of not having one. 6 million Jews were murdered in the Holocaust. 6 million individuals, mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, grandparents and grandchildren, murdered. Each and every one of them had a name. It is our duty as members of the Jewish community to keep their memory alive. With every passing year, this commemoration becomes more and more important as the Holocaust begins to fade out of living memory. As the years go by and survivors pass away, it is our responsibility to tell the stories of the survivors and of those who were murdered. Today, sirens sound across Israel. The wailing cry tells us to stop what we are doing, to pull over, to bow our heads in silent reflection and reverence of the victims. We rely on these memorials and ceremonies to both remind those of us who know and remember, and to educate future generations of Jews and non-Jews alike, so we never forget. I feel privileged to be able to join you, Bnei B'rith, and represent the Embassy of Israel in this ceremony in honor of Yom HaShoah. The act of verbalizing the names of the victims, as we are doing here today, is more than just symbolic. A name makes the person, the individual. If we remember each name, we can keep their memory alive and at the same time stand up against those who try to deny or distort the tragedy of the Holocaust. As the Israeli poet Zelda wrote, L'chol ish yesh shem, every person has a name. Every person has a name given to them by God and by their father and mother. Every person has a name given to them by the sea and by their death. Yehi Zichram Baruch.
The poem, Unto Every Person There Is a Name, by Zelda. Every person, there is a name bestowed on him by God and given to him by his parents. Unto every person, there is a name accorded him by his stature and type of smile and style of dress. Unto every person, there is a name conferred by the mountains and the walls which surround him. Unto every person, there is a name granted him by fortune's wheel, or that which neighbors call him. Unto every person there is a name assigned him by his failings, or contributed by his yearnings. Unto every person there is a name given to him by his enemies, or by his love. Unto every person there is a name derived from his celebrations, or his occupation. Unto every person there is a name presented him by the seasons and his blindness. Unto every person there is a name which he receives from the sea and is given to him by his death. Yaakov Gershman, 11 years old, died in Odessa, Ukraine, USSR. Yaakov Gershov, 48, died in Odessa, Ukraine, 41. Mendel Gersman, died in Belarus. Rhea Geiler, 50, died in Kremenchuk, Ukraine. Zisel Gavetsky, 69, died in Vinnytsia, Ukraine. Rosa Ginsburg died in Zelinka, Russia in 42. Dvora Geiter, 24, died in Novaya Yeshaita, Ukraine in 42. Kova Glantz, 35, died in Uman, Ukraine in 42. Mikhail Gleiman, 53, born and died in Russia. Fega Gleiser, 36, died in 41 in Vinnytsia, Ukraine. David Gleiner died in Belarusia. Feya Gashlenskov, 34, died in Kovleya, Ukraine in 41. Riva Kofer, 39 years old, died in Vinnytsia in 41. Yisrael Koban, 2 years old, died in the Ukraine. Moshe Goldberg died in Belarusia. Grigory Goldenberg lived and died in the Ukraine. Zenya Goldfarb, 26, died in Odessa, Ukraine in 41. Mortar Golden, 40 years old, born in and died in Belarusia. Sophia Golden, 53, died in Mariupol, Ukraine in 41. Boris Goldman, 35, born in Belarusia, died in Leningrad, Russia in 42. Taya Goldman, 68, died in Poltava, Ukraine in 41. And Malka Goldstein, 68, died in Smotrich, Ukraine. We will never forget.
Yankel Kersner, age 30. Raquel Kittner, Ukraine, died in the Ukraine. Sarah Klaus, age 18, died in Gessen, Ukraine. Sarah Kleiman, age 23, died in Ivanki, Ukraine. Monet Klein. Esfir Klayman, age 33, died in 42. Riva Kliger, age 25, died in the Ukraine in 1942. Dusya Klavsky, age 7, died in the Ukraine, 1942. Abram Klayichko, age 56, died in Leningrad, Russia, 1941. Sobil Knop. Menashe Kabrinsky, age 71, died in the Ukraine, 1941. Orku Kogan, age 29, died in Smolensk, Russia, 1943. Enya Kogan, age 43. Miro Kogan, age 50, died in the Ukraine, 1942. Poitry Kogan. Kasha Kolik, died in Belarus, Russia, 1941. Yakov Kalitsky, age 48, died in the Ukraine, 1941. Yankel Commissar, age 51, died in 1944. Shika Karadansky, age 28, died in Romania, 1943. Yatikaria Kositsky, age 2, died in the Ukraine, 1941. Kalman Kolarovsky, age 74, died in the Ukraine, 1942. Nissen Kolarov, age 42. Mardruk Kovner, died in Russia. Olya Kaufman, age 12, died in the Ukraine. Kaya Koziman, died in the Ukraine. Malka Kryad, age 27, died in the Ukraine, 1942. Ishaya Krasner, age 46, died in Russia. Natan Kurstein. Luba Kravitz, age 29, died in 1942. Feivel Kryman, age 38, died in 1943. Aron Kermensky, age 24, died in Romania, 1941. Ronya Kriksanov, died in the Ukraine. Riva Kronfeld, died in the Ukraine. Shaya Kruk, age 44, died in 1942. Vladimir Krutner, age 18, died in Germany in 1944. Sosia Kutcher, died in the Ukraine in 1941. Rosa Kugel, age 32, died in 1941. Itai Kunis, age 8, died in the Ukraine in 1942. Moisha Kunyatsky, age 37, died in the Ukraine in 1941. Boone Kupperberg, age 11, died in 1941. We will never forget.
Ita Reisin, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death, Babi Yar, Ukraine. Date of death, September 29, 1941. Esther Rak, age 56, from Ukraine. Place of death, unknown. Date of death, September 19, 1941. Dina Rappaport, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death, Miropol, Ukraine. Date of death, unknown. Malka Ravkina, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death, Bobrovikut, Ukraine. Date of death, unknown. Yuda Regelmann, age unknown, from Belarus. Place of death, Polotsk, Belarus. Date of death, unknown. Mira Reitman, age 44, from Ukraine. Place of death, Dunaivsky, in Ukraine, 1942. Yelisheva Rekita, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death, Odessa, Ukraine. Date of death, unknown. Sonia Reingold, age 6, from Belarus. Place of death, unknown. Date of death, 1942. Abram Ribalov, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death, Jurin, Ukraine. Date of death, unknown. Abraham Rib, age 35, from Azerbaijan. Place of death, Sevastopol, Russia, in 1942. Isaiah Rivkin, age unknown, from Russia. Place and date of death unknown. Yosef Rodnyansky, age unknown, from Russia. Place of death, Starodub, Russia. Date of death unknown. Sveta Rogov, age 5, from Ukraine. Place of death, Korol, Ukraine, in 1941. Bella Rothenberg, age 49, from Ukraine. Place of death, Shepovichi, Ukraine. Date of death unknown. Yonya Reutmann, age 21, from Ukraine. Place of death, Golosaivsky, Ukraine, in 1941. Boris Roshal, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death unknown, date of death unknown. Gennady Rotenberg, age 20, from Ukraine. Place of death, Stalingrad, Russia, in 1943. Inda Rosenberg, age 24, from Ukraine. Place of death, Pechora, Ukraine, in 1942. Sonja Rosenberg, age 9, from Belarus. Place of death, Minsk, Belarus, in 1941. Yitzhak Rosenblit, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death, Shepetovka, Ukraine. Date of death unknown. Rosa Rosenzweig, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death, Minkowitz, Ukraine. Date of death unknown. Mordechai Rosenstein, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place and date of death unknown. Gittel Shandalov, age 50, from Belarus. Place of death, Sublin, Belarus, in 1942. Ilya Shapiro, age 53, from Ukraine. Place of death unknown, in 1941. Pesia Shapiro, age 56, from Ukraine. Place of death unknown. Date of death, September 19, 1941. Sila Shapiro, age 12, from Ukraine. Place of death, Wolochik, Ukraine. Date of death, September 15, 1942. Elka Shaposhnikov, age 39, from Ukraine. Place of death, Sinkov, Ukraine, in 1941. Osashav, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death, Odessa, Ukraine. Date of death, unknown. Mordechai Shataikin, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death, Babi Yar, Ukraine in 1941. Boris Schatz, age 27, from Ukraine. Place of death, unknown. Date of death, 1941. Shorik Sherbakov, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death, Georgi Vaiks, Russia, 1941. Chaim Shainin, age unknown, from Russia. Date and place of death, unknown. Moishe Shenderovich, age 57, from Ukraine. Place of death, Dnepropetrovsk, Ukraine, in 1941. Pinya Sher, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death, date of death, unknown. Srul Sharavna, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place of death and date of death, unknown. Vittel Sherman, age 64, from Ukraine. Place of death, Chershinsk, Ukraine. Date of death, unknown. Perel Shestopal, age 49, from Ukraine. Place of death, Shomashpol, Ukraine, in 1941. Rivka Shi, age 18, from Ukraine. Place of death, Shitomir, Ukraine. Date of death, unknown. Fira Shivrin, age 22, from Belarus. Place of death, unknown. Date of death, in 1942. Zalman Shivrin, age 51, from Belarus. Place of death, Bobrusk, Belarus, in 1942. Isaac Shinderov, age unknown, from Ukraine. Place and date of death, unknown. Zalman Shkolnikov, age unknown, from Belarus. Place of death, Belgium. Date of death, unknown. Rafael Shlapnitoch, age 15, from Belarus. Place of death, Turov, Belarus. Date of death, unknown. Maishan Shlyakovoy, age 45, from Ukraine. Place of death, Baranovka, Ukraine. Date of death in 1942. My grandmother, Rachel Yuskiewicz, age unknown, from Krakow, Poland. Murdered in Treblinka, Poland. Date of murder unknown. My aunt Elka Yuskiewicz, age 12, from Krakow, Poland. Murdered in Treblinka, Poland. Date of murder unknown. My aunt Lea Yuskiewicz, age 26, from Krakow, Poland. Murdered in Bergen-Belsen, Germany. Date of murder, April 18, 1945. She died 3 days after the liberation of the camp of typhus. My aunt Hannah Greenberg and her husband, both age unknown, and their son Nathan Greenberg, age 4. All from Krakow, Poland. All place and date of murder unknown. My uncle Chil Mordechai Yuskiewicz, age 30, from Krakow, Poland. Murdered in Auschwitz on July 27, 1942. My grandparents-in-law, Ralph's grandparents, Walter Laserstein, age 66, from Preußisch Holland, Germany, murdered in Ghetto Riga in the forest of Rumbola on December 8, 1941. Rosa Laserstein, age 66, from Preußisch Holland, murdered in Ghetto Riga in the forest of Rumbola, also on December 8, 1941. And their younger daughter, the sister of my mother-in-law, Gerda Laserstein, age 19, from Preußisch Holland, Germany, murdered in the concentration camp Sabac in Serbia. Date of murder unknown. We will never forget.
Konya Minkin, Frida Minkovic, Mina Murlas, Kayas Mitsevich, Fira Mogulski, Buma Monastrisky, Rosa Murdokovich, Misha Murdoshek, Mikhail Moroz, Salman Motsokeyer, Moisés Motsovich, Moisei Mishkin, Georgi Naruliansky, Klava Neymark, Vladimir Nekets, Isaí Nishmakin, Esther Nisbaum, Sonia Novak, Samuel Monodichernok, Bronia Nudel. We will never forget.
Yakov Oskelt, age 21, from Ukraine, died 1941. Terrell Oaks, age 73, from Ukraine, died in Ukraine 1942. Baret Oranuk, age 25, from Ukraine, died in Ukraine 1941. Aaron Oslik, age 18, born in Ukraine, from Ukraine. Solomon Osnokov, age 62, from Ukraine, died in Russia 1942. Moshe Ostenovkinsky, from Ukraine, died in Ukraine 1941. Sonia Ostroska, from Ukraine. Sane Padelnik, age 78, from Belarusia, died in Belarusia. Zanadia Parkinson, age 21, from Russia, died 1941. Hatskul Pali, age 29, from Belarusia. Shivak Paryavsky, from Ukraine, died in the Ukraine. Samaya Potsman, age 50, from Ukraine. Zipa Baker, age 62, born in Belarusia, died in Belarusia in 1942. Yosef Peltsker, from Ukraine. Nayushka Peridinik, age 6, from Ukraine, died in Odessa, Ukraine. Yakov Perlman, age 10, from Belarusia, died in Minsk, Belarusia, 1941. David Petsnik, age 40, from Russia, died in Russia, 1941. Veniamin Petzner, age 26, from Ukraine, died in 1942. Anastasia Beljavsky, from Ukraine, died in the Ukraine. Gregory Nikolsevich, age 7, from Ukraine. Sofia Peryatinsky, age 58, from Russia, died in Leningrad, Russia, 1942. Batia Pushkin, age 24, from Ukraine, died in Ukraine, 1941. Isaac Plaskin, age 28, from Russia. Nesha Bliskin, from Belarusia, died in Minsk, Belarusia. Olga Lakina, from Ukraine. Israel Polinsky, age 19, from Ukraine. Anna Pol, age 40, from Ukraine. Bazia Polyak, age 20, from Ukraine, died in 1941. Batia Portnoy, from Ukraine. Alexander Portnoy, 30, from Ukraine, died in Poland, 1945. Yosef Ovlatsky, from the Ukraine. Nukmen Rimanzon, from Ukraine, died in Uman, Ukraine. Savlada Prisman, 75, from Ukraine, died in Odessa, Ukraine. Yakov Pritzker, age 28, from Ukraine, died in Russia, 1943. Samuel Prober, from Russia, died in Russia in 1941. Isaac Pruslin, age 46, from Russia, died in Leningrad, Russia, 1942. Benjamin Pukovich, age 36, from Belarusia, died 1941. Tivya Priruk, from Ukraine, died in Ukraine. Boris Rabinovich, age 29, from Ukraine, died 1941. Raquel Rabinovich, age 49, from Belarusia, died in Belarusia 1942. Vasia Radusky, from Ukraine, died in Ukraine. Izita Regorsky, age 36, from Ukraine, died 1942. Raisa Rik, age 31, from Ukraine, died Ukraine 1941. Solomon Reichman, age 25, from Ukraine, died in Russia in 1942. We will never forget.
Sofia Kurlan, age 45, died in Ukraine, 1941. Gita Gershin, age 20, died Russia, 1942. Benya Kutsak, age unknown, died in 1941. Pinkus Kuznetsov, age 58, died in Belorussia, 1942. Boris Leitman, age 15, died unknown. Yefim Leibenson, age unknown, died in Ukraine, 1941. Faina Libovich, age unknown, died in Ukraine. Etul Leikin, age unknown, died in Russia, 1941. Shepe Lizekov, age 16, died in Russia, 1942. Gitel Lenchen, age unknown, died unknown. Semyon Lerman, age 20, died in Ukraine, 1941. Idel Leiner, age unknown, died in Ukraine. Mendel Lerner, age 52, died in Russia, 1942. Aaron Levin, age 19, died unknown. Berl Levin, age unknown. Lev Levin, age 39, died in Ukraine, 1941. Reiza Levin, age 38, died in Ukraine, 1941. Vladimir Levin, age 22, died in Poland. Kraina Levinchik, died in 1941. Lazar Levintin, age unknown, died in Belorussia, 1942. Dora Likovich, age 4, died in Belorussia, 1941. Dora Lieberman, age unknown, died in Ukraine. Zinaida Liberov, age 14, died in Russia, 1941. Kriona Linsky, age 55, died unknown. Frada Lishansky, age 36, died in Belorussia, 1941. Yankel Litvak, age 53, died in Poland, 1942. Isaac Lifshitz, age 19, died in Russia, 1943. Getzel Lifshik, age 57, died in Belorussia, 1941. Mere Lifshik, age unknown, died unknown. Velodia Lifshik, age 5, died in Belorussia, 1942. Kana Lopatin, age 60, died in Ukraine, 1941. Mark Losev, age 6, died in Ukraine, 1941. Rachel Lovin, age 27, died in Belorussia, 1942. Lev Lukatsky, age unknown, died in Ukraine. Yenya Lukovsky, age 35, died unknown. Sprinza Luzis, age unknown, died unknown. Sozia Lyubarsky, age 55, died Ukraine, 1942. Julia Matzner, age 19, died in Ukraine, 1941. Gregory Meisel, age unknown, died in Belarus, 1941. Itzik Melamoud, age 41, died in Romania, 1941. We will never forget.
Clara Yoffi, age 24, from Belarus, murdered in Slutsk, Belarus. Shmuel Yosevich, from Ukraine, murdered in Derezhnya, Ukraine. Avraham Israelov, age 70, from Russia, murdered in Leningrad. Yelisaveta Itziswan, age 62, from Ukraine, murdered in Belgorod Dnestrovsky, Romania. Yasha Ivankovitzer, age unknown, from Ukraine, murdered in Kalendorf, Ukraine. Pini Kak, from Ukraine, murdered in 1942. Kalman Kadumsky, unknown age, unknown year, murdered in Ukraine. Baruch Kagan, age 31, from Ukraine. Gana Kagan, from Belarus, murdered in Shedrin, Belarus, age 37. Shmuel Kagan, age 15, from Russia, murdered in Nevel, Russia. Raiska Kaikov, age 45, from Belarus, murdered in Shedrin, Belarus. Yuda Kalmanovich, age 37, from Belarus, in an unknown area. Shula Kaminsky, age 27, from Belarus, murdered in Minsk, Belarus. Chava Kanter, unknown age, murdered in Ukraine. Isaac Kapelnikov, age 35, from Belarus, murdered in Belarus. Asya Kaplan, age 11, from Ukraine, murdered in Babi Yar, Ukraine. Motola Kaplan, age 3, from Belarus, murdered in Minsk, Belarus. Vera Kaplan, age 14, from Ukraine, murdered at Babi Yar, Ukraine. Kana Kapulkin, from Russia, age unknown, murdered in Leningrad. Sophia Karen, age 35, from Belarus, murdered in Babrusk, Belarus. Anna Karnal, age 26, from Ukraine, murdered in Dalnik, Ukraine. Yosef Karpman, unknown age, from Ukraine, murdered at Babi Yar. In memory of all of the names that we have heard today, and in all of our brothers and sisters from the Holocaust, we now recite the Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah. Yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yimechon uv'kayed kol bet Yisrael Ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'yimru, Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mivarach le'olam l'olmei olmaya. Yit barak v'yish tabak v'yit pa'ar v'yit ramam v'yit naseh v'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shmei dekudisha b'riku. Le'ela min kol birkata v'shirata tush b'kata v'nekamata tamiran b'yama v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shloma rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Osa shalom bimromav, huya asa shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. We will never forget.
Remember the Jews who rescued Jews during the Holocaust. Earlier today, the B'nai B'rith World Center and the Jewish National Fund held their 20th joint annual ceremony marking the heroism of Jewish rescuers, commencing with the memorial siren peal sounded throughout the state of Israel. Today we remember the efforts of Shmuel Markovitz Pevsner 80 years ago. He was honored posthumously in 2016 with a citation presented to his family. Pevsner from Leningrad served as the director of the Polish troop in the Soviet pioneers' camp in Druskininki, Lithuania, in June 1941, when the Nazis launched Operation Barbarossa and attacked the area. Pevsner succeeded in rescuing all 300 children from the camp, including about 140 Jewish children from Bialystok, Poland, and the surrounding region, and retreating with them by train while under German aerial attack. He established a home for the children in Udmurtia Republic under Soviet Union government patronage, caring for them through extreme weather conditions and shortages until World War I ended. The children were repatriated to Poland in 1946, and most immigrated to Israel. Pevsner was decorated by Poland and the Soviet Union for his rescue of the children. The director of the Lithuanian troop at the camp, Stasis Sudzerskis, was recognized in 1997 by Yad Vashem as a righteous among the nations for his role in the rescue. Today, at the B'nai B'rith Martyrs Forest in Israel, B'nai B'rith and the Jewish National Fund honored 13 additional Jewish rescuers. These individuals join the esteemed group of over 350 rescuers honored with these citations, a project established in 2011 by the World Center and the Committee to Recognize the Heroism of Jewish Rescuers during the Holocaust, to honor rescuers who operated in France, Germany, Holland, Hungary, and across Nazi-occupied and Allied Europe. We will never forget.
As the invasion in 1941 continued, the Jews faced pogroms carried out by their neighbors and local militias in the Ukraine, Belarus, Lithuania, Latvia, and eastern Poland. Close to 1 million Jews who lived in the occupied territories fled deeper into the country. Some were forced into labor camps by the Soviet authorities. Thousands joined partisan units in underground cells that aided in rescues in towns and cities. In the last months of 1941, the mass murder of Jews became a plan of action by the Nazis, and extermination camps were established to carry this out. Yad Vashem has designed this central theme to help us educate and observe Yom HaShoah. We share this look at 1941 to tell the stories of the Shoah. We read their names to remind the world that these were not just numbers. They were husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, grandparents, aunts and uncles, sons and daughters, each with a name, a birth date, and a year of death. We are the ones to observe their yahrzeits since entire families were wiped out. We are the ones to remember them. Yad Vashem continues to search for names of victims that have not been included in their database. You can do that via pages of testimony that provide the means to record this information. Perhaps you know someone like a woman named Rose. When Rose was in her early 70s, her dying son saw for the first time the numbers on her arm. On his deathbed, he asked, "What are these numbers?" She had concealed her past for all of these years, but in this moment told him her story. He made her promise on his deathbed to share the story with others. She agreed. Today, Rose is now 93, and her story about surviving Auschwitz resonates with adults and children alike. May she and other survivors live to 120, but when she and others depart, only the stories will live on. The holographic and video images of the witness will remain for the world to see and absorb. We have their descendants willing to tell the story. Meanwhile, we invite you to join the B'nai B'rith None Shall Be Afraid project and stand against anti-Semitism. Stand against hatred and intolerance in your community. Help bring awareness to how words and actions matter. Start by making a pledge. For more information about this and other Unto Every Person There Is a Name programs being held today, please contact cji@b'naibrith.org. That's cji@b'naibrith.org. Or visit our website, b'naibrith.org. We are in the twilight of life for Holocaust survivors, and with each passing year, the number of survivors shrinks. That leaves us with one burning question. Who will bear witness when the very last Jewish survivor is gone? That answer rests with you. On behalf of the B'nai B'rith family, thank you for joining us. We will never forget.